DUI shatters lives. Understanding the criminal justice system. Who is who, what they do, and why it matters. What does the prosecutor really do? One of the biggest myths television teaches us is that the prosecutor is the victim's attorney. On television, the prosecutor stands beside the victim's family, explains every decision, and fights for exactly what the victim wants. No. After my only son, Dr. Kenley Jean Rainey, was killed by a drunk driver, I believe that too. The crime happened to Kenley. I was his mother, a victim. I naturally believed the prosecutor represented Kenley and me, but the criminal case was not called Kenley's family versus the defendant. It was called the state of Texas versus the defendant. Now that tells you whom the prosecutor really represents. The prosecutor represents the state, not the victim personally. Hello, I'm Sarah, Kenley's mom. Many of you know me as Momma Bear. After Kenley was killed, I had to learn about the criminal justice system while I was grieving, frightened, and trying to understand what was happening. I'm not an attorney. Just like you, I'm a victim and a mother sharing what I learned so other victims may know, what questions to ask, and what to do next. Now, today we are answering one more question. What does the prosecutor really do? Reality. The prosecutor represents the government. In a Texas state criminal case, the prosecutor represents the state of Texas. The victim has important rights. The victim should be informed. The victim should be heard, but the victim does not personally control the criminal case. Who is the prosecutor? The word prosecutor describes the government attorney handling a criminal case. The district attorney, often called the DA, generally leads the local prosecutor's office. The elected district attorney may not personally handle your case. An assistant district attorney, often called an ADA, may be the prosecutor assigned to work on your case from day to day. Now, the titles may be different in another state. You do not need to remember every title. You need to ask one simple question. Who is the prosecutor assigned to my case? Ask for the person's full name, exact title, telephone number, email address, and ask to be notified if the prosecutor assigned to your case changes. Now, this happened to me. What does a prosecutor really do? The prosecutor views the evidence and the law. The prosecutor helps decide how the state will move the criminal case forward. That may include deciding which charges the office believes the evidence can support, working with law enforcement, speaking with witnesses, communicating with the defense attorney, deciding whether to discuss or offer a plea deal, preparing evidence and witnesses for the court, presenting the state's case at trial, and telling the judge what outcome or sentence the state recommends. The prosecutor has a great deal of influence, but the prosecutor does not control everything. The prosecutor does not decide guilt alone. The prosecutor does not personally decide every sentence. The judge and jury have separate responsibilities. But here is what victims must understand. The prosecutor decides what the prosecutor's office believes justice requires based on the evidence, the law, and what the office believes it can prove. That may not be the same as what justice feels like to the victim. The prosecutor may make a decision the victim strongly disagrees with. I know I did. I disagreed. Understanding the prosecutor's role does not mean you have to agree with the decision. It means you need to understand who has the authority to make it. Now, plea agreements. This is one of the most important decisions a prosecutor may make in whether to negotiate a plea agreement with the defense attorney. And honestly, this is done most of the time. And it was done in my case. Many criminal cases are resolved through plea agreements rather than trials. The prosecutor and the defense attorney negotiate the agreement. The victim is not sitting at the negotiating table. The victim may not even know. I know I didn't. The victim does not control the final agreement. The agreement may include a change in the charge, which is what happened in my case, a charge being dismissed, again, that's what happened in my case, a plea to a different offense, or a recommended sentence. The victim may have rights to receive information, confer with the prosecutor's office, and express concerns. But in my case, I knew about it after it had already happened. But having a voice is not the same as controlling the agreement. Always ask what rights apply to your case. Put this request in writing. Please notify me before any plea agreement is presented to the court. I didn't know that. I didn't do that. Please explain the proposed terms in plain language and give me an opportunity to express my concerns. I never had that opportunity. Do not assume the conversation will happen simply because you are the victim. Ask. Put your request in writing. I explain plea agreements in detail in Series 1. What it really feels like to become a victim, one question at a time. For this lesson, the most important thing to understand is that negotiating a plea agreement is part of the prosecutor's role. It is not controlled by the victim and can be done without your knowledge, which happened to me. Now, my experience was after Kenley was killed, I believed the prosecutor would keep me informed before an important decision was made. That did not happen in my case, like I said. The plea agreement had already been worked out before I understood what was really happening. I was allowed to read my victim's impact statement, VIS. But being allowed to speak after agreement has already been made. It's not the same as being informed and heard before the decision is made. That was when I learned that the painful difference between having a voice and having control. I had a voice, but I did not have control of the state's criminal case. More than 7 years later, I am still requesting the written plea documents, judgment, sentencing records, docket, and transcripts, so I can finally see exactly what the official court record says. I did not know which documents to request. I did not know what office kept them. It took me 7 years to figure that out. Now, one thing I want to make sure before I close is this, is that the prosecutor may have many cases, hearings, witnesses, deadlines, and files. You have one case, and that one case may represent the person you love and the worst thing that has ever happened to you. The prosecutor is doing a job. You are living through a tragedy. Those are not the same experience. Your case may be one of many files, a case number, that must keep moving through the system. To you, it's your life. That does not mean every prosecutor is uncaring. It means you should not assume the prosecutor understands the full effect the crime has had on you unless you tell them. Do not assume that something you told the victim's assistance coordinator was automatically given to the prosecutor. Ask. But your concerns in writing and confirm that they were received. The victim has rights, but not control. The victim has a right to ask questions depending on the state and the case. The victim may have rights to receive notices, attend proceedings, confer with someone from the prosecutor's office, complete a victim's impact statement, and be heard at certain stages. Those rights matter. But having a voice is not the same as having control. The prosecutor may listen to the victim and still make a different decision. The prosecutor may believe the evidence cannot support the charge the victim expects. The prosecutor may offer a plea agreement the victim strongly opposes. The prosecutor may recommend a sentence the victim believes is too lenient. That can feel like a betrayal when the victim believes the prosecutor was the victim's personal attorney, but the prosecutor is not the victim's personal attorney. The prosecutor represents the state, like I said. The victim's assistant coordinator and the prosecutor are not the same person. The victim assistance coordinator may be your main contact in the district attorney's office. That person may give you the forms, notices, court dates, and information, but the victim's assistant coordinator does not make the prosecutor's legal decisions. Right now, you need 3 clear answers. Who is the prosecutor assigned to my case? How do I contact them? Ask to be notified if the assigned prosecutor changes. When may I speak with the prosecutor before a major decision or plea deal? Do not wait until you arrive at the courthouse. Third, how do I give my concerns in my victim impact statement in writing? And how do I confirm they were received? That is very important. Keep a copy of everything you send. Ask for important answers by email or letter. Write down the name and title of the person who gives you the answer. The difficult reality is that the victim may have to become their own voice. You are not asking to control the criminal justice system. You are asking to understand what is happening. You're asking to receive the information you are entitled to receive, and you're asking to be heard before important decision is made. You may have to become your own advocate, or as I call it, a Momma Bear. You should not have to chase information, but the reality is that sometimes you do. As the saying goes, the squeaky wheel gets the grease. And in the criminal justice system, a victim who stays involved is much harder to be overlooked. The prosecutor may see a case a file, but make sure the office also sees the victim, the family, and the life left behind that file. The crime happened to the victim, but to the prosecutor, he represents the state. This lesson answers one question. What do the prosecutors really do? Join me for lesson 3. What does the defense attorney really do? Because every victim deserves the right to be informed. Thank you for watching.